Hello everyone. Ah, perfect. Looks like Facebook is working. In the group. Have that on. Okie doke. Hi everyone, how are you? Hi Mum. Hi Tina. Oh, have you got sun today, Tina? We don't. I don't think it's cold out there, but it's just not sunny today. It was a nice day yesterday. Oh, yesterday was Monday, wasn't it? And Saturday. Was it Saturday? Or was it Sunday? But yeah, it was nice and bright at least. Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Grandma. Thanks, Bonnie. You can hear and see me perfect. You preempted my question. That's great. Yeah, actually, it's good to know you can hear and see me before I continue. I will just apologise if Hazel barks. We've got oil being delivered outside at the moment, so he's going to hang around for the next 10 minutes or so by the looks of it. So I've got my son on Hazel duty, so Stephen has taken her to a dark corner of the house where she can't see outside or hear anything, so fingers crossed. Oh no, Tina, you're not feeling very well. Oh. You know what, there are a few bits and pieces going around, I've heard, and people don't actually really know what it is. It's just sort of knocking people for six. I hope you get better soon. Who's that? TJ Hungry. Phone finally told you about Lisa Horton live. Oh, it's great to have you here. Is this the first one you've actually caught live with us? We're on a good few channels. And how are you watching? Oh, you're on YouTube. Perfect. Oh, Helen. Hi, Helen. How are you? Okie dokie. We've got Evelyn with us and Beverly. Hi, Beverly. Are you all set up? Are you crafting along with me today, Beverly? Actually, it'd be interesting to see what colours you choose if you do craft, if you do decide to make what I'm making today, Beverly, or anyone else for that matter. But I know Beverly usually crafts along, and she's actually very good at getting her makeup onto Facebook in the afternoon, quicker than I do. Well, I'm not going out this afternoon, so who knows? Oh, yes, you are, Beverly. Brilliant. Well, let's hope you can keep up with today as well. Oh, goodness, I'm on the big TV today, am I, Evelyn? Oh, Lord. Oh, no. Right, shall we get crafting then? So it's great to have you all here. I thought today I'd come back and revisit the Gerbera Bloom, which is something that I used last week when I was playing with the explosion powders for the first time. And there was a fair few comments, actually, saying that people had forgotten about this dye. That they have it and they hadn't used it for a long while. There was a good few people who were glad that I'd used it because they hadn't used it and had forgotten how these edge dyes work, because I'll show you in a second. They come actually as a set of 3. So what I thought I'd do today is just revisit again. I showed you how to use it as an edger last week. Let me just grab that card actually. Okie doke. Let me see, which one did I do? If you remember, I was using the explosion powders last week. These were the cards that I made. Here we are, that was the one. I chose to use the Gerbera Edge, and actually in pink colours, the same as the packaging there. And I actually used it as an edger. So if you wanted to see how to create this as an edger, then look back on my last live. That would have been from last Thursday. I can't even remember what the date that was, but it would be the one previous to this in the lineup of videos there. So that there, I've used it as the edger, the way that you see here. But today I'm actually using it as a freestanding die cut like this. So hopefully, say I'm always conscious, we're building up a library of videos for you to tune into to have help with all of Lisa's products. So if I can show you different ways on how to use them, Lisa will do the same as well, and anyone else who does videos. Natalia does little videos as well. Sue's brilliant at putting little together videos now, which is brilliant. So anything we can do to sort of help you along with the products and sort of jog your memory, then that's perfect. So today I'm using it as a standalone, and I'd say I know a few people haven't used this because they've forgotten how to line it up. So I'll show you a couple of tips just to get started with that today. And also I'm just pairing this up with the Floribunda Background. It's a really nice die that you can substitute any die, embossing folder and layering stencils on for. But I'm using this mainly because I haven't used it before, so it is great for me to open it up and have a play. But there are a couple of other very similar backgrounds that would be perfect for this. I had a delivery this morning and I haven't played with any of it yet. I've been very good. But if you remember from the one of the lives Lisa done when she released 10 products direct to her website, one of those backgrounds was the background of roses, which comes along with the layering stencils and the embossing folder. And as you can see, they are very similar in design. So if you don't have this one, then you can substitute with this or any other background that would suit. So it's a very sort of generic card today that will be perfect to use with all of your embossing folders and layering stencils that create a background. So yeah, I was just interested to see sort of the size, and it's the similarities between the two. So if you don't have one, you can definitely swap in another one. And obviously the colours I'm using today are my choice of colours. You can make this card in a completely different colour, look totally different, and it would be great just to do perhaps even a set of cards using different colourways. So this is basically the premise of the card that I'm making today. I think I've mentioned before that I tend to sort of mock up the cards because I spend a couple of days thinking about it, usually when I'm driving in the car, to be fair. And when you think about things, sometimes you don't always know if it's actually going to translate to paper. So I actually mock the cards up first in white cards, sort of straightforward. The colours sort of come quite easily after that, just to see how this would work. So I've got a gatefold card. I've just die cut in white, and what I'll do, I will keep these for future reference. I shall keep these in the folder, so when I come to use this again and I have sort of little ideas on what I can do and are these sort of dimensions and the size is going to work okay, then I've got these to refer to again, so I can just keep these in the folder there. So as I'm right, which way should I go about this? I'm making a gatefold card. Okay, so I'll just go through this quickly. Now, I like to sort of do things as simply as I possibly can and with the supplies that I have. And this gatefold card originated as a normal 5x7 card blank, which is what I have here. Now, the dimensions of the gatefold card will remain 5x7. It's just that I folded this in a slightly different way. So the gatefold card would come as is, and I would stand that up, and that would be how I would normally use it. But to create this into a gatefold, you open it out fully. So if you were going to create this from an A4 piece of card or a 12 piece of cardstock, the dimensions you're looking at would be 25 centimetres by 18 centimetres. So in inches, that would of course be 10 inches by 7 inches. Now to create the gatefold, so the easiest way I find this is to use a card blank, but because what I would then do, I would just measure halfway the front of the card and create a vertical score line, and then do exactly the same on the back. So from the centre of the card outwards, I then find the centre point, and I create another score line down that side. Now, if you were creating this from a blank, then obviously you'd have the dimensions as I've just said, so it would be 10 inches by 7, and you would score at 2.5 inches and again at 7.5 inches, and those would be your score lines down. Now, if you are using a card blank, you will obviously have that score mark and possibly even a fold line down the centre. Don't worry about that, because by the time we've folded the gatefold in, you will only see that score line on the back, because we will be covering that up on the inside, that score line. And actually, if you wanted, you could always add yourself another piece of card on the back to cover that score line, but I don't think that that's too much of an issue, to be honest with you. So that's how we get to our card blank. I'll come back to that in a second. Now, the next thing, how am I going to do this? Yeah, I'll do the stenciling in a little bit, actually. I shall talk you through the actual Gerbera die set to start with. And actually, what I will do, just bear with me 2 ticks, I'm going to right, let me show you the slides. Why is that not working? The computer's not working. Oh, no, I haven't frozen. Sorry, I confused myself and I've frozen because I was thinking, right, I'm going to try and bring the slides up, but for some reason they're not coming up. I might try and put those up a little bit later on. So I do have a slide with measurements on. I can't get them up on the screen at the moment for some reason. They are not showing. I don't know why, but I will try and get that up by the end, or if not at the end of the video today, so you don't have to have you don't have to worry about taking down all the measurements in the pen and paper. Okay, so what I will do, I will go. Oh, you can see them. Are they up there? I can't see them on my screen. How very strange. Have they gone now, Bonnie, or are they still there? And which ones can you see? Oh, how bizarre. Oh, everybody can see them, but not me. Which ones are you looking at, actually? Are you looking at... Are they on Facebook, are they? Everybody can see them. How bizarre. Which ones are you looking at? Are you looking at the dimensions? Okay, perfect. That actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you'll see that I've used a 5x7 card. And also I've listed a piece of white card. This is what we'll be doing the stenciling on, and that is directly under the card blank. Now, I've also listed the dimensions for colour 1 and colour 2. Now, the 2 colours I'm using are the green and the yellow. And basically, these are going to be the mats and layers that go inside. So the first lot of dimensions I give you are the mats and layers that go on the inside of the card here. So you can choose your colours, you can choose how the mats and layers look on the inside, but basically this is how I'm going to cover the inside of the card. So I can't actually read, I can't see the measurements, but you've got them there, so this is fine. So this will be the first set of measurements, and that will give you your covering there. And then your white piece of card that we're going to stencil on is going to sit just there. So I shall put this together. I'll put these together as we go along, actually. That's thrown me, actually. I wonder why I can't see those. You can. But that's fine. I've got the measurements somewhere else. So, and I've already pre-prepared and already cut these. So this is all good. My glue is a little bit sticky. So I'm just going to pop this in there so you can see any of the score lines that you may have had from your previous card blank can be covered quite straightforward on the inside. So I'm going to put those layers there. That finishes off the centre of the card. really nicely. And I shall keep that out, this one out for stenciling in a minute. So the next lot of measurements I've given you are the ones that covers the gates on the front of the card. Now I've given you these measurements as a whole piece of cardstock. What I need to do now is to cut these in half. Now the idea of these two pieces, they're just slightly smaller than what's going in on the inside. So these will create the matten layer on the front of the card. But when I create a gatefold card, I like the matten layers to be shown around the three edges, but the center card, the center line here, I like there to be a real synergy between the two sides, so I don't have the matten layer of the gate, the white of the gate. So what I do, I literally just cut this in half. So the matten layer of on the front of the card really only relates to these three areas. So I'm going to cut that down the center, and I shall do the same with the yellow one. Now to mark the center, I literally create the matten layer on the front of the card with the second layer also. Now I should have done this before I cut it. That's throwing me there. Okay, so I create the matten layer as equal like that. And then I take a pencil and I just mark the center where the two gates meet there. So top and bottom. And that will be my center mark. So I can trim that down. You could actually layer those two together first and then cut them in half once they're stuck together, but it does depend on how good your trimmer is for that. If your trimmer can't go through two layers of card, then obviously do them separately. So you can see how I'm working there. The matten layer, you can see the green all the way around the outside, but it's flush together there. Again, that's the way that I just like it to look, and there is nothing stopping you and no reason why you can't create a matten layer all the way around, so you have the green showing down this side as well. Let's say that's personal preference, isn't it? And I know actually, Tina, you make a lot of gatefold cards, don't you? And you do your matten layers with all the way around as well. I just love what Tina does with her die cutting. It just comes so naturally to her. Everything just works. And I do, when I do a lot of die cutting, I always look at what Tina does to give me the inspiration. He gives me a good kickstart to actually sort of start a project when I'm just die cutting. Okay, so we have our matten layer on the front there, and I'm just going to remove those pencil marks, top and bottom. So we can see how that looks on the front of the card. It sits really nicely together, got a really nice join, and we have that to open out to the centre of the card there. Now what we need to do is to think about putting our die cut gerberas on the sides there, on the panels. So although I have my white ones, I'm not going to have those on the front of there. So the next measurements down on both colours, actually, I've given you the colour of the pieces to actually die cut your gerberas. Now, for the green colour, I'm actually cutting out the detail of the gerbera, and on the white, we're cutting out just the background. And this is where I just want to show you sort of how the die cuts work. So I'm going to put that aside just for one moment. So we go back to this set here, and this set consists of 3 dies. Okay, so what we have here, let me get a darker piece of card. Okay, so you can actually see what we're doing. There we go. So we have our one large die, which actually cuts out the detail of the flower. And then this here, this is the outline, and this will cut the detail of the flower away from your cardstock. So if we go back to where we've cut this here, if you just cut the detail of the flower with this die, it stays within your cardstock. So we do need to separate that away, and that's where these dies are coming. Now this is actually 2 dies, and I've stuck them together, but they can actually be pulled apart here and here. Now this is where you can use just one of the dies, and it cuts away one side of the Gerbera. So we still have the Gerbera attached to the majority of the colour cardstock here, and this area becomes free. Now we could have done exactly the same and then flip this around. So this side of the flower could have stayed attached to the cardstock, and this side of the flower could have been free, and that would have been achieved using this die here. But we can actually take and separate the Gerbera as a whole, as I've done here. And to do that, we need to attach these 2 dies together. You can cut them separately, but it actually works very well if you attach them together like so. So the easiest way I actually found to do this, let me think, how did I do it now? I can move that out of the way. It's a bit of magnet sheet that I keep them on. So I'm going to layer these up again. It's a little bit tricky, but it's definitely worth doing. And once you get familiar with doing this, it works really well. So if we actually layer these 2 together, okay, we're just working with the dies here. Let's take those off, and then we lay this die on top. You can see how all of the designs work really well together. Okay, so if you just take the time and layer up all those dies together. Now those single dies, these ones that sit underneath, sit directly under this die here. So it's not like other outline dies where they sort of nest together really nicely, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Apologies if I'm going back to some forwards here. So other dies that we have that create a layer and nest, like the words here, and it's the same with some of the flowers. They sit literally within each other and they nest, and they, if you were to die cut both of these together, you wouldn't damage either one of the dies. This one is a little bit different in as much that you cannot use all 3 together in your die cutting machine. But there is no worry about that. I'm just sort of showing you to hopefully give you the jog your memory to actually start using these again. So line both of these smaller dies up under that die, and once you're happy with that, and actually this would be a great time to use your magnetic mat for the Ultimate 2. Because obviously this will stick in place, won't it? Be a magnet. That'd be a perfect use of your mat. So you can see here we have the 2 joins of the 2 dies, and they are literally sitting right next to each other. So what we need to do is just where those joins are, just attach a piece of tape or attach with a piece of tape. Make sure they're not overlapping, and that now is in effect your outline die cut. Okay, so what I then went on to do to create the backing, I literally ran these 2 dies through with the backing that I wanted for my flower. and this gives you that layered die cut for behind. Now, because of the nature of the way that these two dies are, there are two join points that do not cut, but they are so small and it really is foolproof to actually take these apart, to actually take these out from the rest of the cardstock here. So we just take a tiny pair of scissors. Even my big scissors are too big for this today. So we just literally snip once there, and you'll be able to see the line of where you need to go, so you won't be creating any extra tabs. And here at the bottom, where the bottom of this leaf here, just follow the line of the die cut, once on this side and then once on that side, and that is all it takes to take away that excess cardstock around the outside. So you want to do this twice because we're going to put a flower on either side of the gate fold card. So I should do exactly the same on here. Snip there and snip there, and we have our two pieces ready. Keep your die cut like this for this particular stage, and it might even be worth storing it away like this. Right, it depends how your favourite way to use this die is, but I'm going to keep like that for now. So those are the two backings. I'm going to put those aside. I've done exactly the same with two pieces of the green cardstock as well. This is what I'm going to cut the detail of the flower from. So I haven't unattached this at this stage because I've already die cut once, okay, and I'll show you how we do the next one now. So we have the detail of the flower, and that is going to be backed onto the yellow like so. So I've created the backing in exactly the same way as I did here. I then take the detail of the flower and I can line that up on top of that backing here. Now, if you keep this in the surround of your cardstock, it makes it a lot easier to manoeuvre and pick up and generally manage. So we don't want to sort of snip away and create to this stage just yet. So we can line up our die, and because we've lined up the two dies and this die separately, when you come to do this on the cardstock, it works really easily. So you get yourself another two pieces of tape. What have I just done with those two bits? Okay, I'm going to use this bit here. So I'm going to line this up. Again, just take your time. You do want to get this right. And just attach those in 2 points. And all we need to run through the die cutting machine is this. We don't need to run these through again because, as I say, it's you will damage your dies and your machine if you run all three of these dies through together. I'm going to bring in my machine now. And once you've done this a couple of times, so you'll have the confidence and you'll be well away creating with this. But it is one of those sets that if you haven't used it for a little while, or you didn't, it's possible that Lisa might not have had the time to demonstrate it properly. You know how quick and fast paced her shows are. It's possible that you may have forgotten. So yeah, this is hopefully be a really nice reference point for you to sort of refer to. So what I do want to do, hopefully that hasn't jumped. I'm just going to run that through a couple of times because there's a lot of detail there to process and die cut. Oh, yeah, that's done. Okay, lovely. So I'll move that to the side. Now, before, actually, I'll take them all off of there. Should have used my dark backing today, shouldn't I? So I'm just going to get my pokey tool. And before I take the die away, actually, I find it a lot easier to poke away all the bits and pieces while the die is still in place. Let's take all those pieces out, because this is the one that I am going to use on the card. Now, if you caught another one of my lives a couple of weeks ago now, I think, I actually done a paper piece in live. So this is another one of those dies that you could actually spend your time and paper piece as well. That would look really lovely. So if I just take that away, take that die away, I've taken away all the pieces there, I think. Yep, there. Okay, just move that out of the way. So you can see we've got all that lovely detail die cut from there now, but it's still attached to the inside, and all you need to do now is just separate that in exactly the same way as I've done here. Nothing different. So we take that tiny snip there. That is literally like 2/8 of an inch, like half a centimetre. That's the smallest snip. Here it's a little bit bigger depending on the size of the cardstock that you use, but no less tricky, to be fair. So we can just separate that out, and we have our die cut come out of there that lined up perfectly, and you'd never know that that wasn't achieved through one using just one die. Now that looks really pretty on the black, doesn't it? Looks really pretty on the black, and you can see the detailing coming through there. I was a little bit late to change my colour scheme, but maybe it's something you can try. Actually, that would be really striking, wouldn't it? Even the yellow with that really nice sort of olive green on black, that would look really nice. So all we need to do now is just lay these two pieces up together. So add my glue. This is really fine detail, so if you have the glue with the fine tip applicator, then that'd be absolutely perfect. So we can layer that up, and because the two dies that create the backing have been taped together and used directly after, directly after each other, we know that that backing is going to be exactly the same size as the die cut there. And if you find that your little area down here is just a little bit too sharp, perhaps once the two layers are put together, just reshape it. There we are. That just makes that a little bit more pleasant to the eye. So I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. So we have the two. Also, the other reason why I chose this die and a completely different background die is just to show you how well you can mix and match all of Lisa's items as well. Yes, there are sets that obviously work so well together, but a rose is a rose, and if you look in the garden, sort of anything goes, doesn't it, in nature? So if you can find a way, or find sets and mix and match sets that look good to you, I really don't think that there's any reason why you can't mix and match between all of these products, which is, say, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this today, use the Gerbera, because I think this in the centre here looks like a rose, which is sort of the link to the background that I'm using as well. So, and it could be that you don't always buy the sets, or you haven't bought a huge amount of Lisa's collection, and you perhaps bought some of the earlier stuff and you're perhaps dipping back into it today. There's a whole host of different reasons, and it's just nice to change things up, isn't it? Really get the most out of your stash by mixing and matching all sorts of things. And look, if you make it and you don't like it, you can try something else next time. So what I'll do, so I can bring my card back in now. Now this is where we can start to have a play with our die cuts on the front here. We can stagger them, we can sort of overlap them. I've turned one the other way around, you see, and that looks a really nice sort of overlap into the card. We can I possibly wouldn't do it that way. We're looking the same on each side, but I would perhaps turn that one round and we have them looking out that way. Yeah, it's entirely up to you, isn't it? This is where you can have a play and how it works for you. So I shall probably do something like that. But if you'd done paper piecing and you really made a show of this on the front, it'd look really stunning. But equally, this sort of configuration I think looks really classy. It would work really nicely for an invite or a wedding invite, wouldn't it? So I'm going to stick those on like that, and then when we come to do our stenciling underneath in a second, we can really go to town. So we have a really nice, I should have put those up there, there we are. So we can have a really nice subtle introduction on the front, and we can create something really pretty for the inside. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that like that, and now I'm going to do the stenciling. Let me leave that there so I can see the colours. So I'm going to bring in my alternate, so let's do some stenciling. I haven't actually done any stenciling with you for a couple of weeks, have I? I'm doing all sorts of other things. Right, now I'm just going to see if I can go back and change the slide. You'll have to let me know if that shows up, unless I can pop onto Facebook myself and see where we are with that. Okay, I've clicked on the colours. I don't know if you can see if I've changed the slide or not. I really don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. Shows the items used. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Angela. That's exactly what I wanted to have on there. I'm glad you can see it, really, not me. Yeah, that stumped me, that one. Absolutely throwing me. Okay. Not to worry. Let's get some stenciling done so we can see this. Right, so you will see all the items that I've used, which is perfect. Hopefully that is going to show on YouTube as well, so for future views. Oh, excuse me. Right, you will also see the colours that I've chosen on here as well. I haven't put those on a separate slide today. So Woodland Moss, Garden Sage for a little bit of contrast, and I'm using Juicy Pineapple, Coral Beach and Pina Colada. Now I have also given you alternative colours for the to use the interference, which I couldn't make up my mind if I wanted to use them or not. I might dot some of those in as I go along. I'll see how I feel. So what can we see there? I'll leave that there. So we have the Floribunda Background. This is a set of 7 stencils, and we're going to create a lovely background here. I've already cut my the layer down, so I do want to make sure that I centre that, mainly because it's easier for me to show you. But I think if I was making this myself, I would use a 5x7 piece of cardstock. So this was, or perhaps even larger, so it is larger than the stencil. That would be my preference of doing that, because these backgrounds actually, and the embossing folder is actually, it's a 5x7 design. Yes, I'm going to cut it down to be smaller, but I think if I was stenciling myself at home, I would work on a larger piece and then cut it down and sort of be able to sort of cherry pick where I wanted to cut that afterwards. Okay, so as it was, I'm using a smaller piece, so I've made sure that I've centered that as best I can within the stencil. Not essential, because say it is a background, so it's all going to go off the page anyway. So we're starting with flowers, and I think what I might do, I'm going to start with the Coral Beach. I didn't want to go too pink, to be honest, with this, so I've chosen the Coral Beach. I could do with a, let me get a larger brush. Is that a larger? Yeah, just slightly larger. So Coral Beach. So I think that would work really nice with that green and the yellow as well. So we want quite a pale base initially, don't we? Because we are going to layer detail on top of that. So this is the base colour. So we don't need to add too much on. And I think what I might do, I'm not going to add a solid layer of colour onto this. I do quite like it underneath, where, especially when I'm doing flowers, to have a bit of white showing through and perhaps have it a little bit patchy. Normally, you know, other times I would get an absolute smooth blend, and you've watched me almost get lost in creating the smooth blend. But I think when you do flowers, flowers are so individual that it's nice to just give each bloom just a bit of personality sometimes, and I think that really does add to it. As we go on and we add detail on top, of course, then all of that will even out. And I'm trying to get this done a little bit quicker for you as well. I'm sort of conscious of the time. But I think actually that Coral Beach, that will work really nice with these colours that we've got here. So we've started that off with stencil 1. We can take that off there. And that's got almost the cloud look actually. It's really pretty. So stencil 2, that's it. We have the detail on those self-same flowers. So we will actually just be evening out that colour that is there already and adding that detail on top. So I'm just going in with the larger brush still. And what I'm going to do in a second, I'm going to add a bit of yellow on top of that. Now I've got the 2 yellows out, you'll notice. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the larger flowers that you can see on here. The larger flowers, I'm going to use the juicy pineapple, but I'm going to add some contrast onto these flowers with the Pina Colada in a minute. I think I might just go back to a smaller brush. Actually thinking about this, I really do need to get myself some more of these blending brushes, don't I? Because that will make that colour go on a lot quicker. Let me just check that. Yes, I'm adding enough colour. Actually, do you know what I think I'll do? See, this was how decisive I was this morning. I really couldn't decide what I was going to do. And that's why I put on the interference colour. Just in case I changed my mind while I was stenciling. And that is what I've done. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with a little bit of the, let me think, no, with the ripe mango. And I'm going to add, it's going to add some mica, but it's also going to add, you know, that little bit of interest. So the ripe mango on white, this is orange. Now this is one of the colours where these dyes were released, that the labels are actually sort of printed back to front. So on white, the ripe mango will appear orange, and on black it will appear green. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some contrast and just change up that colour a little bit by adding a bit of ripe mango onto there. So you'll still see the Coral Beach underneath. But I'm just sort of working to the centre outwards, and that is how the detail of this flower is going to be added. But also it's going to add just a little bit of extra colour on there. So I'm going to take that away. Yes, you can see that. And apart from that one, which I'm just going to blend out a little bit more. There we are. So as that dries, that is going to give us a little bit of mica on there as well. So now we've got the larger flower, so I think this will be the juicy pineapple. we should go just around the outside so we get that really nice shadow effect and a real pale effect in the centre. So a lot of the ink is just tipping over into that large aperture, and then I shall just take away some of that whiteness with the rest of what's on the brush, but the majority of the colour is going to stay around the outside, and you'll see that in a second when I take the stencil away. But it's generally how I stencil most times. I do like to have that bold edge just by tipping the majority of the ink just over the edge of that stencil. So it's almost like a halo effect. I like to call it the halo effect, where it's dark around the outside and it's lighter in the middle. So it really sort of gives you the effect of shadowing. And I shall do that all the way around. And this juicy pineapple is really going to give us the pop of colour. So I hope when we open up the card, it's a nice sort of calm, pale exterior, that we have a really nice pop of colour on the inside. I'm going to take that away. You can see how well that's blended. We've got the sort of the faint colour on the inside. That detail can now be added using this next stencil. So we're on stencil number 4. So I'm not picking up any ink at this stage, and I'm just, because these flowers are quite large, I'm going to start in the middle, picked up a little bit more ink, so the concentrated ink in the centre, and just work that out. So we're still going to be getting that light and shade, but the centre of the flower, where the sort of petals are going to be the densest, is going to be darker. So I'm going to start in the centre and then just widen my brush strokes to the outside. So the centre part is always going to be darker. And do the same there as well. Quite a delicate stencil, that one. So perhaps be a little bit more careful. And don't forget these outline ones here. Although we've only got the tiniest amount touching the edge of this corner, don't forget about that. Okay, there we are. How pretty is that? It's gorgeous. Now this is really going to come to life with adding the green now, so I'm really looking forward to this. I really do love the foliage, especially the ones that Lisa creates. So Woodland Moss, I'm going to give myself a really good basis of this all the way over. Just quite light to start with as we go all the way around. So these blending brushes allow you to put a lot of ink down and cover a large area quite quickly. So we can do that. And then I shall come in a second with a smaller brush and start adding some shading and just sort of adding a bit of personality to the leaves there. So I've just added ink all the way around, and I'm just going to take that off just to show you what I've added there. So it's so bright, so it feels like the sun's out when you're looking at this anyway. So now I can come in with a stencil brush, and I'm going to add more ink. And the way I'm going to do that is look at where the flowers are and just brush the green ink out from that. So basically the darker green is going to be closer to the flowers, and as it goes out towards the edge of those foliage sprays, that's where it's going to get lighter. So that's sort of how complicated it gets for me with shading. It's always in relation to the items that you are stenciling. So the foliage next to the flower is going to be in shade more, so it sort of stands to reason that it's going to be a little bit darker. So that's the logic that I use to approach shading, if that helps anyone at all. And if you stick with that, it pretty much sees you through a lot of your shading, whether you're colouring with inks and pens, or whether you're going through stencils or not. And that does generally work quite well, I think. So we have a different type of leaf going on here, which is a slightly different colour. So I think just to add a little bit of variation, actually I'm going to stick with the Woodland Moss. I'm going to add Woodland Moss to start with, so we've got that common theme going all the way through. And there's lots of little bits actually. That's really, really interesting. Tiny little bits of detail, which I really like. So some of these areas down here are just tiny, but that's going to make all the difference when we add another colour. So now I'm going to come in with the garden sage, and that will just change it up a little bit. And because we've got the Woodland Moss underneath, it means that it is going to match, and it's going to be all in keeping with everything else that you've done. And garden sage is a beautiful colour in itself, it really is, but it really does blend really well over other colours. So I've added the shade there, and you can see just how that picks out, just makes it slightly different, but because we have the Woodland Moss underneath as well, the whole thing really does feel pulled together. So we have the last stencil, which gives us extra detail on the peach flowers. So I think, again, what I'm going to do is come in with the white mango. I'm using my sponge for this. These work really nicely through the stencils as well. Now this is a small amount of detail, so that means that I can put in a lot of ink. So not only will that give us the mica, but it will also just really make those flowers pop against the yellow as well. Now I did put the interference colours on for the green colours as well, so that would be the summer garden, which would be really pretty. So you could also do a little bit of shading with that if you fancied that as well. There we are. Oh, that's really pretty. And as that dries, although there are only small details, that mica will sort of pop through, and I can see that as that's drying now, and that's really, really pretty. And see, you can really go to town with the different colours on the leaves as well. You could say if you added mica to that as well, you'd have, with the interference inks, you have a whole different shade again. So that is a really nice background. Actually, I'll be using that one again. So what we can do, we can now mount this on the inside of the card, and you can see just how well all the colours come together. And as you open that up, you wouldn't actually be expecting that on the inside. So you'd be able to glue that in. And then we have a sentiment. Now, there are lots of sentiments, and again, you can go as bold, you can choose any sentiment you wish. I'm keeping mine quite tonal to go there. That works really well. Alternatively, if you just wanted to keep that pretty on the inside and perhaps put a verse or something on the inside, someone's name, that could equally sit on the front. And to do that, what you do, actually, let's glue those two together now. You can have this sentiment, actually. It works on the inside and it works on the outside, doesn't it? So I'm a bit torn. I don't quite know where to put it. Again, that'll be me dithering. So what I will do, I'll stick those together, and then I'll show you how you could attach this to the front and keep that quite central. So if you wanted to add this to the front, you would pop that on the front there, just make a little mark on the back. That would be the halfway point, okay? Make a little mark on the back of your sentiment there. Then you know that all on this side here would be where you add your glue, your adhesive. Okay, you could even write glue on this side here. And then you'd only be able to attach that on half the front, and you've got that little hinge that would fit on the front of the card. So that would be one way to attach that, your sentiment. Equally, you could have that on the inside. That works really nice on the inside, or you can have that in the centre there. Again, that's entirely up to you. You could do that in gold, you could do it in some sort of mirror card, but that sort of, it really stands out really nice. I think also it does finish off the front of the card nicely too. So you can see actually the way that I overlapped these Gerberas, they almost act as a hinge. So when you actually add that into your envelope and you have these overlapping pieces sitting on top, it does serve to actually close down that gatefold quite nicely too. There we are. So that sits like that and keeps that closed really nice. So it's and you would never know what's going on the inside, would you? So there's lots of different ways. Say it's not just a gatefold card. There's so many different ways that you can approach that and change that yourself also. So that's today's card. Hopefully I've given you a little bit of inspiration, sort of given you the confidence to try using this Gerbera as well. Once you get to this stage, they really are just like any other die cuts that Lisa gives to us. What's that, Katie? Hubby thinks it's really pretty. Oh, does he really? Oh, thank you. Does he craft as well, or does he just admire the things that you make as well, Katie? Okay, so that's, hope to say, it's given you another idea. And say if you go back and look at the other video where I've used the Gerbera in a completely different way, it gives you, say, all the ideas on how to actually use it. So this can be adapted not to this type of card, any shaped card. And then we've also used it as a die cut there. So say that was the main aim, to actually give you the confidence using these Gerberas, and any of the edge cuts dies as well. Actually, they all work in a very similar way. So I shall leave that with you there today. I'll give you all a chance to go and get yourselves sorted and perhaps then get settled down for Lisa's shows at 6 o'clock. They're going to be just as fast paced as any other time, but she's bringing out something completely different with the bees. So I think they'll go down the storm. I love them, so I can't wait for mine to arrive as well. That's it from me this week. I don't have a live on Thursday. I need to go and take Hazel for her haircut, for a summer cut, because she's looking far too fluffy for this weather. But I shall be back with you next week. So enjoy the rest of the week, everyone, and take care. And thanks for joining me today.